Welcome to Life Story 999. Today, we bring you an inspiring story that will show you how a simple act of kindness can change a life forever. Emily, a KFC employee, stood up for an elderly man who was mistreated just because he didn't have enough money for a meal. Little did she know that this small act would set off a chain of events that would lead her to true love and a leadership role. Stay with us to hear the whole story of kindness, love, and transformation. Don't forget to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. People often say that a small act can change an entire life. That is exactly what happened to Emily, an employee working at KFC. When she saw an elderly black man being mistreated by other staff members just because he didn't have enough money for a meal, Emily decided to do what her heart told her. She used her own money to pay for his meal, giving him warmth and kindness. This small act set in motion a chain of events that changed Emily's life forever, transforming her from an ordinary employee into a leader who found true love. This story of kindness, love, and transformation will make you want to stay and listen until the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more meaningful stories that we will bring to you. Emily worked at a KFC branch, always diligent and kind. One morning, as the sun shone brightly through the windows of the restaurant, she was busy preparing orders behind the counter. Suddenly, the bell above the entrance chimed, announcing the arrival of a customer. Emily looked up and saw an elderly black man slowly make his way into the restaurant. He looked tired, as though life had not been kind to him lately. His clothes were worn and his shoulders slouched with the weight of some invisible burden. He approached the counter, staring up at the menu with eyes full of both hope and uncertainty. The old man glanced at the menu and then patted his pockets, looking for money. His hands trembled as he finally pulled out a few coins, which he carefully counted before glancing back up at the menu with a sigh. Emily could see the defeated look in his eyes, a look that pained her deeply. Before she could do anything, however, her colleagues at the counter started whispering and giggling among themselves. One of them, Jake, even leaned over the counter and asked in a mocking tone, "You think you can afford anything here, old man?" The old man blushed in embarrassment and lowered his head, mumbling something under his breath. He began to turn away, but Emily couldn't let that happen. She stepped forward, her heart urging her to act. "Sir, may I help you?" she asked gently, ignoring her co-worker's chuckles. The old man hesitated, then spoke quietly, I just wanted something to eat. But I don't think I have enough." His voice cracked as he spoke, and Emily felt a pang of sadness. Without a second thought, Emily pulled out her wallet. "Don't worry, sir. Today, it's on me," she said with a warm smile. She swiped her card and placed an order for a meal, complete with a warm cup of coffee. The old man's eyes welled up with tears as he looked at Emily in disbelief. "You don't have to do this, young lady," he whispered, his voice shaky. "But thank you so much." Emily smiled again and handed him the tray of food. "Everyone deserves a warm meal," she said simply. The old man took the tray, and with tears in his eyes, he thanked her repeatedly before finding a seat. Emily watched him for a moment, her heart swelling with warmth. She could hear her co-workers still whispering behind her, but she paid them no mind. She knew she had done the right thing, and that was all that mattered. The day continued as usual, but the encounter with the old man stayed with Emily. She couldn't stop thinking about the sadness in his eyes and the way his hands had trembled as he counted those few coins. It made her reflect on how often people are judged by their appearances or circumstances, without anyone bothering to see their struggles or humanity. She resolved that no matter what, she would continue to treat everyone with kindness, regardless of what others thought. Later that afternoon, during her break, Emily sat down with a cup of tea, replaying the scene in her mind. She noticed Jake and a few other co-workers whispering and glancing her way. She could feel their judgment, but instead of feeling ashamed, she felt proud. She knew she had done the right thing, and she hoped that maybe, just maybe, her actions might inspire someone else to do the same someday. As the evening approached, the restaurant began to quiet down. Emily was cleaning tables when a mother with 2 young children entered. The kids were giggling, their faces filled with joy. Emily couldn't help but smile as she watched them. The mother approached the counter, and Emily took her order, her heart feeling a bit lighter after the encounter with the elderly man earlier. When her shift ended, Emily gathered her things and stepped outside. The air was cool, and the sky was painted in shades of pink and orange as the sun began to set. She walked to the bus stop, feeling tired but content. The memory of the elderly man's grateful eyes stayed with her, warming her heart. She knew that life was not easy, and that everyone had their own struggles. If her small act of kindness had brought even a little comfort to someone, it was all worth it. The following day, Emily returned to work as usual. She was preparing for the morning rush when she noticed Jake approaching her. He had a sheepish look on his face, and for a moment, Emily wondered if he was going to make another snide comment. Instead, Jake cleared his throat and spoke quietly. "Hey, Emily. About yesterday. I guess I was kind of a jerk. I didn't mean to be so harsh." Emily looked at him, surprised. She saw a hint of regret in his eyes and offered him a small smile. "It's okay, Jake. We all have our moments," she replied. Jake shifted uncomfortably before nodding. "Yeah, well, it was nice of you what you did for that guy. Not many people would do that." Emily's smile widened. "Thanks, Jake. I just think everyone deserves a little kindness." Jake nodded again, then quickly turned and walked away, clearly uncomfortable with the conversation. But Emily felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe her actions had indeed made a small difference, even if it was just in Jake's attitude. As the day went on, Emily continued her work, serving customers with her usual warmth and care. The old man from the previous day never left her thoughts. She wondered about his life, about what had brought him to that point. She wished she could do more for people like him, but she knew that even small gestures could mean the world to someone in need. Towards the end of her shift, Emily was surprised to see a bouquet of flowers sitting on the counter with a small note attached. Her heart skipped a beat as she picked it up and read the note. "Thank you for your kindness. You made a difference in my day. A grateful customer." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes as she held the note close. She knew it was from the elderly man. The simple gesture touched her deeply, and she realized that her small act of kindness had not only made a difference in his life, but had also made a difference in her own. It reaffirmed her belief that kindness, no matter how small, could create ripples that spread far beyond what one could see. That night, as Emily lay in bed, she thought about the events of the past couple of days. She felt a sense of fulfillment that she hadn't felt in a long time. She knew that her job at KFC was just a stepping stone, but it was moments like these that made it meaningful. She resolved to continue treating every customer with compassion, no matter their situation, because everyone had a story, and everyone deserved to be treated with dignity. Little did Emily know, this was just the beginning of a journey that would change her life in ways she could never have imagined. Her small act of kindness had set in motion a series of events that would lead her to new opportunities, new relationships, and ultimately, a new purpose in life. But for now, as she drifted off to sleep, she was content with knowing that she had made a difference in one person's life, and that was enough. 2 weeks passed, and life at KFC returned to its usual routine. Emily continued her work, always diligent and kind to the customers. She didn't expect to see the elderly man again, but fate had other plans. One afternoon, as the restaurant was buzzing with activity, Emily heard the familiar chime of the entrance bell. She looked up and was surprised to see the same elderly man standing at the door. He looked just as weary as before, but there was something different in his eyes, a hint of hope. The old man slowly approached the counter, and Emily's heart sank as she saw him once again checking his pockets for money. He pulled out the same few coins, clearly not enough to buy a meal. Emily could see the hesitation and embarrassment on his face, and once again, her co-workers began to snicker. "Back again, old man," Jake called out from behind the counter, his voice dripping with mockery. "Didn't you learn last time that this place isn't for you?" The old man's face turned red, and he looked like he was about to leave. But before he could, Emily stepped forward once more. She shot a disapproving look at Jake, silencing him, and then turned to the elderly man. "Sir, welcome back," she said kindly. "Please, let me help you again today." The old man looked at her with tears welling in his eyes. You would do this again for me?" he asked, his voice trembling. "I can't accept such kindness." Emily smiled and nodded. "Of course I would. Everyone deserves kindness," she replied as she took out her wallet once more and paid for his meal. The old man was overcome with emotion. He clasped Emily's hand, his voice choked with gratitude. "You have no idea how much this means to me. You have given me hope, young lady. God bless you." Emily's heart swelled with warmth. She handed the old man his meal and watched as he sat down to eat, his hands shaking as he lifted the sandwich to his mouth. She felt the eyes of her co-workers on her, but she didn't care. She knew she was doing the right thing, and that was all that mattered. After the old man found a seat, Emily glanced around and noticed that the restaurant was still bustling with activity. She went back to her duties, serving other customers, but her mind kept drifting back to the elderly man. She couldn't help but wonder about his situation. Why was he struggling so much? Did he have family? Was there anyone to take care of him? A few minutes later, as Emily was wiping down a table, she noticed Jake approaching her. His expression seemed to be a mix of annoyance and something else, something that looked like curiosity. He cleared his throat awkwardly before speaking. "Emily, why do you keep doing that?" Jake asked, his voice low so that the other co-workers wouldn't hear. "Why do you keep helping that old guy? He's clearly not going to be able to pay you back." Emily paused and looked at Jake, her gaze softening. "It's not about getting anything in return, Jake," she said gently. "Sometimes people just need a little kindness. We don't always know what others are going through, and a small act of kindness can make a big difference." Jake frowned, as if struggling to understand her words. "But you barely know him. And it's your own money you're spending," he pointed out. Emily smiled. "I know. But I can afford to help, even if it's just a little. And if it makes his day a bit better, then it's worth it to me." Jake seemed to mull over her words for a moment, then shrugged. "I don't get it, but I guess it's your choice," he muttered before walking away. Emily watched him go, hoping that maybe, just maybe, her words had planted a seed of empathy in his heart. Emily was stunned. A managerial position? She had never imagined such an opportunity would come her way. She looked at David, trying to process what he had just said. I don't know what to say," she stammered. "I've never been a manager before." David shook his head. "You have all the qualities of a great leader: kindness, integrity, and compassion. The rest can be learned. Please, think about it." Emily nodded slowly. "Thank you, David. I'll definitely consider it," she said, her heart pounding with excitement and disbelief. The next few days were a whirlwind of emotions for Emily. She couldn't stop thinking about David's offer. A managerial position would be a huge step forward in her career, a chance to make a real difference. But at the same time, she felt nervous. She had never taken on such a responsibility before, and the thought of leading a team intimidated her. Still, David's words kept echoing in her mind. "You have all the qualities of a great leader." One afternoon, as Emily was taking her break, she decided to call her mother. She needed advice from someone who knew her better than anyone else. As soon as her mother picked up, Emily poured her heart out, telling her everything that had happened, from helping the elderly man to meeting David and receiving his surprising offer. Her mother listened patiently, and when Emily was done, she spoke gently. "Emily, I have always known you to be kind, hardworking, and capable of anything you set your mind to. If this is an opportunity to grow and help more people, then I believe you should take it. Don't doubt yourself, sweetheart. You have more strength than you realize." Emily felt a surge of emotion as her mother's words sank in. Maybe she was capable of more than she had ever imagined. Maybe this was her chance to prove it, not just to herself, but to others as well. The next day, David returned to the restaurant. He walked in with the same confident air, and when Emily saw him, her heart skipped a beat. She knew she had to make a decision. David approached the counter, and Emily took a deep breath. "David," she began, her voice steady despite her nerves, "I've thought about your offer, and I would be honored to accept the position." David's face lit up with a broad smile. "That's wonderful, Emily. I knew you would make the right decision," he said. "You won't regret this. I'll personally help you get started, and we'll make sure you succeed." Emily felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety, but above all, she felt a sense of purpose. This was her chance to grow, to make a difference beyond just serving food at the counter. She was ready for the challenge. In the following weeks, David worked closely with Emily to prepare her for her new role. He introduced her to the staff at the branch she would be managing, walked her through the operational procedures, and made sure she felt comfortable with every aspect of the job. Emily found herself learning something new every day. It was challenging, but she was determined to give it her all. David was patient and supportive, and as they spent more time together, Emily began to notice the warmth behind his professional demeanor. He genuinely cared about his employees and wanted the best for them. The more she got to know him, the more she admired his dedication and kindness. One evening, after a long day of training, David invited Emily to join him for dinner. They went to a small, cozy restaurant not far from the KFC branch. As they sat across from each other, David looked at Emily and said, "You know, my father talks about you all the time. He says you gave him hope when he had none." Emily's eyes softened, and she smiled. "He deserves kindness." "We all do," she said quietly. David nodded. "You're right. And that's what makes you so special, Emily. You see people for who they are, not for what they have or don't have." Emily felt her cheeks flush at his words. There was a sincerity in David's voice that touched her deeply. They continued talking, sharing stories about their lives, their dreams, and their hopes for the future. It was the first time in a long while that Emily felt a true connection with someone, and she could sense that David felt the same way. As the evening came to a close, David walked Emily back to her car. Before she got in, he paused, looking into her eyes. "Emily, I just want you to know how much I appreciate everything you've done, not just for my father, but for everyone around you. You're an incredible person." Emily's heart swelled with emotion. She smiled, her eyes glistening. "Thank you, David. That means a lot to me." They stood there for a moment, the air between them filled with unspoken words. Then, David reached out and gently took her hand. "I hope we can continue to get to know each other, both as colleagues and as friends," he said softly. Emily nodded, her heart fluttering. "I'd like that," she replied. From that moment on, their relationship grew stronger. David continued to mentor Emily as she took on her new role, but their connection went beyond work. They shared laughter, hopes, and even fears. Emily found herself looking forward to every meeting, every conversation with David. And as she stepped into her role as a manager, she knew she wasn't alone. She had someone by her side who believed in her. Emily's journey had taken an unexpected turn, but it was a turn that filled her with hope and excitement for the future. She had taken a leap of faith, and in doing so, she had found not only a new career but also a meaningful connection with someone who truly saw her for who she was. And as she looked ahead, she knew that this was just the beginning of something beautiful. Their relationship continued to flourish, both personally and professionally. Emily thrived in her role as a manager, and David was always there to support her. They made a great team, not just in love, but in their work as well. Together, they introduced new initiatives at the branch to improve employee morale and customer satisfaction. Emily's empathy and David's business acumen complemented each other perfectly, and the branch quickly became one of the most successful in the area. Their love story was not without its challenges, of course. There were long days, difficult customers, and moments of doubt. But through it all, they leaned on each other, finding strength in their love and partnership. Emily knew that as long as she had David by her side, she could face anything that came her way. One day, as they were closing up the restaurant, David looked at Emily with a smile. "You know, I think this is just the beginning for us," he said, his eyes filled with hope and excitement. "I can't wait to see what the future holds." Emily smiled back, her heart full. "Me neither," she said softly. "As long as we're together, I know it'll be amazing." And as they walked out of the restaurant, hand in hand, Emily knew that her life had changed in ways she could never have imagined. What had started as a simple act of kindness had led her to a love that was deep, true, and unwavering. And she was ready to embrace whatever the future held, knowing that she and David would face it together, side by side. David and Emily's relationship flourished, and it wasn't long before they decided to get married. Their wedding was a beautiful and intimate affair, surrounded by family and friends who celebrated their love. The ceremony took place in a charming garden filled with blooming flowers, the air sweet with their fragrance. Emily wore a simple yet elegant gown, and David couldn't take his eyes off her as she walked down the aisle. The joy on their faces was unmistakable as they exchanged their vows, promising to support and cherish each other for the rest of their lives. After the wedding, Emily took on a new role, not only as David's wife but also as his partner in managing the entire KFC chain. It was a big step, but Emily was ready for the challenge. She brought fresh ideas and a new perspective to the business. Her kindness and empathy became the driving force behind many new initiatives aimed at improving the working environment for the employees and enhancing the quality of service for the customers. Emily introduced training programs focused on customer service, ensuring that every employee understood the importance of treating customers with respect and kindness. She knew that the way customers were treated could make all the difference in their experience, and she wanted every customer who walked through the doors of their restaurants to feel valued and appreciated. The training sessions were interactive and fun, allowing employees to share their own experiences and learn from each other. It wasn't long before Emily began to see the positive effects of her efforts. Customers were happier, and the employees were more motivated. But Emily didn't stop there. She also implemented employee wellness programs, offering better work-life balance and support for those in need. She understood the importance of mental health and wanted to create an environment where employees felt comfortable asking for help. She arranged for counseling services to be available to employees, as well as workshops on stress management and maintaining a healthy work-life balance. Her goal was to make sure that every employee felt supported, not just professionally but personally as well. David couldn't have been prouder of Emily. He watched as she transformed the business, and he knew that none of it would have been possible without her compassionate heart. Together, they made an unstoppable team, driven by a shared vision of kindness, respect, and excellence. David focused on the business side, expanding the franchise, managing finances, and ensuring everything ran smoothly, while Emily worked closely with the employees, creating a positive and supportive atmosphere in every branch. One day, as they were visiting one of the KFC branches, Emily noticed a young employee who looked particularly stressed. The girl, named Maria, was new and seemed overwhelmed by the fast-paced environment. Emily took her aside and spoke to her gently, offering words of encouragement and reminding her that everyone had been in her shoes at one point. She assured Maria that it was okay to make mistakes and that she was there to help her learn. Maria's eyes filled with tears of relief, and she thanked Emily for her kindness. It was moments like these that made Emily realize just how far she had come. She had once been in Maria's position, nervous, unsure, and trying to find her way. Now, she was in a position to help others, to make a difference in their lives, just as she had always wanted. It filled her with a sense of fulfillment and purpose that she had never imagined possible. David and Emily also made it a point to give back to the community. They organized charity events, fundraisers, and food drives, using their platform to help those in need. Emily had never forgotten the elderly man who had walked into her KFC branch all those months ago, and she wanted to make sure that no one else had to feel the way he had that day, hungry, embarrassed, and alone. They partnered with local shelters and community organizations, providing meals to those who couldn't afford them and offering job opportunities to those looking to get back on their feet. The impact of their efforts was felt not just within the KFC branches but throughout the community. People began to see the restaurants as more than just places to grab a quick meal. They saw them as places that cared about people, places that were making a positive difference. Emily's reputation grew, and she became known as a compassionate leader who truly cared about the well-being of others. Her journey from an ordinary employee to managing the entire chain was a testament to the power of kindness and perseverance. One evening, after a particularly successful charity event, David and Emily sat together on the porch of their home, watching the sunset. The sky was painted in hues of pink and orange, and the air was filled with the sound of crickets chirping. David turned to Emily, his eyes filled with love and admiration. "You know, none of this would have been possible without you," he said softly. "You've changed so many lives, Emily, including mine." Emily smiled, her heart swelling with emotion. "I couldn't have done it without you, David," she replied. "You've always believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. And together, we've made something truly special." David took her hand in his, giving it a gentle squeeze. "I can't wait to see what else we can accomplish together," he said, his voice filled with hope and excitement for the future. As they sat there, hand in hand, Emily reflected on everything that had led them to this moment. It had all started with a simple act of kindness, buying a meal for an elderly man who couldn't afford it. She had never imagined that one small gesture would change the course of her life so dramatically. It had led her to David, to a career she was passionate about, and to a life filled with love and purpose. Emily knew that there would still be challenges ahead. There always were. But she also knew that she and David could face anything as long as they were together. They had built a life based on compassion, respect, and a desire to make the world a better place, and there was nothing more she could ask for. In the years that followed, David and Emily continued to grow both their business and their family. They had 2 children, who they raised with the same values that had brought them together in the first place: kindness, empathy, and the importance of helping others. Their children grew up watching their parents lead by example, and they, too, became passionate about making a difference in the world. David and Emily's love story was one of transformation, not just of themselves, but of everyone around them. They showed that with kindness and perseverance, anything was possible. They had taken a simple fast food chain and turned it into something extraordinary, a place where people felt valued, where employees were treated with respect, and where the community knew they could turn for support. As they watched the sun dip below the horizon, Emily rested her head on David's shoulder, a contented smile on her lips. She knew that their journey was far from over, but she also knew that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. And that, to her, was the greatest happiness of all. Emily's story is a clear example of how a small act can bring about great change. From helping an elderly man who was mistreated, Emily not only found love but also changed her entire life. She became a leader, an inspiration, and a testament to the power of kindness. The story conveys the message that sometimes, with just a bit of kindness, we can change not only someone else's life but also our own. The lesson this story brings us is the importance of compassion and the willingness to help others. A small act of kindness can have a significant impact and change an entire life. Live with kindness and be ready to help, because we never know how one small action can open the door to great opportunities and love. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to Life Story 999 for more inspiring stories. Emily's story is a clear example of how a small act can bring about great change. From helping an elderly man who was mistreated, Emily not only found love but also changed her entire life. She became a leader, an inspiration, and a testament to the power of kindness. The story conveys the message that sometimes, with just a bit of kindness, we can change not only someone else's life but also our own. The lesson this story brings us is the importance of compassion and the willingness to help others. A small act of kindness can have a significant impact and change an entire life. Live with kindness and be ready to help, because we never know how one small action can open the door to great opportunities and love.